Does Charles LeClerc have what it takes to become a Formula 1 world champion? Now, I want to preface all this by saying that I think Charles Leclerc is one of the most talented drivers in the grid. Definitely in the top three, probably alongside Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. And he is one of the most talented drivers we've probably had in Formula 1 over the last 10 years or so. His one-lap pace is up there with some of the very best we've ever seen. He's been putting uncompetitive machinery over the last couple of years in positions on the grid where it probably has no right to be. So his talent isn't anything, that I have any worries about. But there is one stat that does worry me when I think of Charles Leclerc. 18 pole positions, 5 wins. There's a well-known stat going around that Max Verstappen has more wins from Charles Leclerc poles than Charles Leclerc does. And while we're talking about Max Verstappen, because he is, Charles Leclerc's biggest obstacle when it comes to winning a world championship, Max Verstappen also has 18 poles in Formula 1, 32 wins. So you see the problem that Charles Leclerc has here. Now look, obviously not all of those races that he's missed out on winning have been down to him. He's obviously had reliability issues, he's had bad strategy calls by Ferrari, and don't worry, we'll get onto them in a later podcast. But there has definitely been instances where Charles needs to take the responsibility for missing out on some of these results. And not just wins. You think, at Imola, where he bins it when he's trying to chase down Perez, when maybe he could have been a bit more streetwise and just held on to third place. But, you think of France, when he's leading the race and he just bins it under little pressure. There's been lots of instances as well where he's put it on pole and he's lost it off the line, and either Max or Checo, storms ahead of him and he's never able to kind of recuperate that. So how does he turn that around? Now, look, I think I touched on it last week where I think that Charles is very, very emotional in the car, whereas somebody like Max is a bit more machine-like. He's laser-focused. So I do think that Charles needs to maybe not necessarily cut out how emotional he is in the car, but learn to harness that energy and and use it to his benefit. We've seen in the past drivers can be emotional in the car and still use their benefit. You think of Ayrton Senna, a notoriously emotional driver, and in many ways he quite reminds me of Charles Leclerc, and in the same way that maybe Max is more of an Alain Prost. Leclerc and Prost are both very emotional. They have incredible one-lap pace. I think Senna is probably the most electric driver across one lap that we've ever seen in Formula 1. And Charles is quite similar. But Senna was able to harness that and use that to his advantage, whereas Charles hasn't been able to yet. The thing is, he's still got plenty of time. This season was arguably the first season when he's been in a machine that's really capable of challenging for a world title. I know his 2019 Ferrari was quick at times, but by the time it came into its own, I think Mercedes had just gone 1-2 at 5 or 6 races in a row, so it never really had a chance to prove that. So if Charles is able to use his emotion to his advantage, turn that one lap pace into something he can translate across a full race weekend, on a Sunday ultimately is when the points are given out. If he can do that, he can definitely win a world title. And I had faith that he could do that this season. If you look, for example, I had him down as champion in my drivers' championship predictions at the start of the season. So if Ferrari can get their act together, if they can maintain a competitive car, I do think he can win a title, but he is going to need to improve his consistency across a whole weekend if he's going to compete with Max Verstappen, or if Lewis Hamilton gets a car capable of winning a title again, to be able to compete with him too. But what do you think? Let me know down below if you think Charles Leclerc can win a world title, if he will win a world title, or if you think he is too emotional to get the better of someone like Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. And I'll see you in the next podcast.